Welcome back to MwodPro. We're going to take on what I call the shoulder tweak or the shoulder fall. Now, I'm hanging out with Marcus Philly, local gym owner and good dancer, I'm not going to lie. An athlete I've known for years, cruising to CrossFit Regionals this upcoming weekend. We'll have one more week with 10 more days. One of the things that happens is that every once in a while, you're just going to fault your shoulder. You're not going to injure your shoulder. You're just going to be out of position, and your shoulder's going to freak out. And you've had that happen before on the rings. You may have jumped in, played on the monkey bars or something, and all of a sudden you freak out. One time recently, I asked Carl Cole to do a front lever, and he lowered down and was like, ah, what's going on? And that shoulder fault or shoulder tweak ends up feeling like it's the end of days on your shoulder, and we want to give you a template for this. So if you tweak your shoulder, the two rules are this. One, shoulder's in a bad position, get it in a good position, which usually means setting the relationship of that humerus back in the position of the scapula, because you just missed a snatch or ended up forward or fooshed on the arm. Two is that if something is tight or not moving, get it moving. So what you're going to see is that the body's very clever, that if you foosh or tweak that arm and end up having a little tweak, you're going to be in a bad position and your musculature is going to spasm down. And that spasm usually fits a certain set of patterns. And the patterns that you can relate to, one is you get locked down right in the back here. One of the external rotators is freaked out and overstretched, and it just goes ballistic. The other piece that we tend to see is the pec minor gets freakishly tight because your body is like, hey, let's go ahead and splint that. But where we typically see the big ugly is right in the armpit and the subscapularis. So that big chunky tissue right underneath the arm there. And what will end up happening is it just feels like it's locked down and you can't figure it out. Triceps may become involved, yes and no, but usually the rotator cuff is in a kind of a freaked out state. So here's what we'll do. If the shoulder's in a bad position, we reset that position and we do it mid-range. So a couple ways to do that. If I have an athlete with a tweak, we'll have him on his back, Mark's on your back. And the easiest thing to do is put the arm straight up to the sky and then load that thing up. Let me give you a loose dumbbell on your face. There you go. Classy here. And then you'll see that normally Marcus has got his shoulder well off the ground here. I want the head of that shoulder just approximating the back of the socket like he was bench pressing and just camping out in this position. I've chosen a moderate weight, right? It's not the 50-pound dumbbell that we normally set that shoulder back to the socket with, because I just want to put that joint under tension and just let that arm chill out. It doesn't take a lot to support this, does it? And then he can even come over and block the elbow if he needed to. But the idea is just to get some approximation to the back of the socket and just let that joint kind of re-normalize. Resetting that position will kind of break that spasm freak out cycle, resetting that shoulder. If I don't have a kettlebell or a dumbbell, I can safely help my friend out if the shoulder's not dislocated, but just by blocking the hand into some slight external rotation, and then I can just lay on the arms just slightly. I can just put a little pressure mid-range. He's not going to dislocate through the back of the socket into the ground. I'm just camping out and just let that steady pressure set into the back of the socket, that joint, and then a lot of that musculature can chill out. If I immediately go and try to beat the crap out of my freaked out shoulder without reclaiming position, it'll never turn off. So hang out, let this thing set, just really like setting the hip. We can do the same thing for the hip, but just letting this drop back to the socket can just slowly let those tissues come together. Tissues that have been freaked out and stretched suddenly don't have to work as hard, and we can break that cycle. So that would be homework number one, is to take a barbell, or excuse me, a dumbbell or a kettlebell, or have a friend block the hand and just lay straight down on it. It shouldn't feel sketchy, and just drop that thing down with some constant pressure until you just don't get any change. Two is that you could also try to do this yourself with a band, pressing the hand out, blocking, and then just letting that shoulder approximate into the back of the socket like a swimmer stretch. And then just as I wrap around this kind of classic Donnie Thompson piece, the shoulder just gets tighter and tighter back there, and it literally just feels comfortable, like, oh. That's what people are looking for in that position. I can just chill that out and get that shoulder repositioned. Then we can really start talking about the soft tissue spasm. So we've set up a lacrosse ball on the barbell here, and it's easy for Marcus to drape his arm over that thing And what's great is about treating this yourself is you know exactly where the arm is tight, and just some easy movements in here, and just try to find the corner, find that tightness right up in here. It's going to feel like a rock because your body's freaking out trying to hold that thing, and that subscap is one of the things that lights up when our athletes are in a bad position. And you can just camp out there and soften that. That constant pressure on there is enough to break that spasm cycle and kind of undo that. So just constant slow pressure, winding up, keep the pressure on. If I have someone's psoas is in spasm, I'll just get on it and then just do a little bit of movement, but I don't just change the pressure variance. I stay on it, stay deep. The last piece is we'll go ahead and smash the back of that shoulder and kind of get that function back on. So shoulder here, ball on the back. Want to do that for us? And then just slow, steady pressure, a little bit of movement, but mainly just trying to load that thing up. And then if I'm working with an athlete who's had a little tweak, I can even just load his shoulder up. He takes big breaths, and I'll just stay on constant pressure until that tissue breaks. This is an easy way. I'm not, maybe I have a clinical doctorate, maybe I don't. But what's great is that I'm just pushing on his shoulder. He knows right where the ball needs to go, and he places it there. I get some little pressure there. If I want to move his hand back and forth, that's fine. But just that constant slow pressure is enough to break that spasm. So again, the basic rules are these. You have an athlete who comes off the rings or does something wonky or has a bad dive on a swim or blocks the net, set the position of the shoulder in the right place, and then get it moving. Anything you would add in your experience?
All those things.
MwodPro, see you tomorrow.